Hi, welcome to Family Law Friday presented by Florida Women's Law Group. My name is Betsy Corbett and I'm in the marketing department. Family Law Friday is designed to be a resource for all women with a family law issue. Today we will be discussing divorcing with teenagers and college-age children. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a little information about our host, Heather Quick. Heather is the founder and owner of Florida Women's Law Group that advocates for women in North Florida. The firm educates and empowers women on the law so that they can find the strength to endure the process and end up better both financially and emotionally. She's been a licensed Florida attorney for the last 20 years, with most of her practice being in family law. Please join me in welcoming Heather Quick to Family Law Friday.
Thank you, Betsy, and welcome. I'm glad to see you today, and thank you for joining us again on Family Law Friday. This year, as we launched the year, we started to talk about divorce and children, topic that affects so many women. And there are different experiences based on the age of your children. And I have had the opportunity over the many years of practice to really discuss with women the issues that were going on and how that relates to their particular situation, and really, how it affects them overall, which it affects so many areas, which is why I really wanted to address it. And, as you know, from the last time when we were talking about the young children, there are so many different concerns. And as we go into these young adults, teenagers, I'm thinking, right now, we're going to cover your teen on the way to college. So we've really got about 17 to 18, but within that range, I have seen some patterns through my clients and their concerns that are going on with their children when they're in that age group. And that's why I wanted to talk about that today, because education is power, knowledge is power. And if you find yourself in that situation, if you are, in it or thinking you're going to do it, this may just give you some insight. I don't have all the solutions. There's so many different things for everybody's particular situation. However, if I can shed some light on things maybe that you hadn't considered, and if you're still in the process of deciding about the divorce, these are great things to have a discussion about with your attorney. It's, maybe with your spouse too, if you guys are in a amicable situation, and maybe you're not even really yet talking about divorce, but these are some issues that come up with children of this age, and you see them happening to either you or somebody you love, and you're just wanting to have some guidance. And for what it's worth, I've met with hundreds, thousands of women over the years, and so many of them have had similar issues. And my parents, divorced when I was younger, but I watched a subsequent divorce, or lived through a subsequent divorce with my parents when I was in this age bracket. So I have that experience, and I can look back as I have researched and read, as I talk to different women, and say, yeah, I remember that. And I remember doing this or that, because I was a young teenager without a whole lot of sense. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to touch on two areas. The first thing I want to talk about is financially, some things that I see over and over as far as patterns, because this I can really touch on from how we should be looking at it from the divorce standpoint, how the law is going to treat it, and really prepare yourself for what we're looking at. And then we'll talk about some psychological things, and how therapy can be effective especially if you see certain things. But my expertise and experience is more on the financial side, and it is a big part of the divorce. So let's get into it. Now, generally speaking, let's say you have a 16, 17-year-old and you're divorcing their father, unless you got divorced, married, divorced, and married again, you've probably been married, a long time if you have. So a lot of this is based on some assumptions, and everybody's case is different, as I know I've told you before, because the law is stated in black and white, but your facts are so different. And the key is intertwining. How do your facts meet particular statements of law? It helps for me to really kind of identify specific situations. So if that's not your particular situation, you may have questions. That's fine. Please reach out. We always want to answer questions because everybody's unique case is different. So let's talk about our teenagers, and let's talk about the normal psychological things we would expect and behaviors of teenagers in their development. And, a lot of it is when they're in that stage, they are, going through a lot with high school, but they're also preparing to go into adulthood. So already the relationship, as many of you know, can be strained because they want to be independent, but we're still supporting them. They're still living in your house, and there can be just that rub, and they're trying to identify and create who they're going to be and assert themselves. But of course, they still need their parents. And, one of the big things in divorce, and this is so general, but bear with me, and those of you who've been through it, you'll understand it. When you have a teenager, my experience is that they're very egocentric, and I think that is very normal. It's all about them, and that's why so many of them will take risks, and they don't really have a sense of their own mortality yet. There's, not a whole lot of fear, especially with boys. But it's really all about them. So, what upsets the majority of them, at least on the surface, is, okay, how does this affect me? I'm supposed to be graduating this year, and you're telling me now it's about you and your divorce, and I'm pissed. And there, of course, is sadness and all these other things, but in it, they'll come and they'll go, and who they blame and how they treat you is going to vary. In my experience, they're so tough on the mom. And I don't know. I think kids are always tough on the mom because really, moms don't leave, generally speaking. And I feel like most kids are secure in their relationship with their mother. They know their dad may leave, but, really their mom doesn't. And so I can be harder on her. Aren't we always tougher on the ones we love and know that they're going to love us no matter what? Plus you may be around more, but you can serve sometimes as a punching bag. Now, this goes back a little to the way things historically were. Bear with me. Now divorce and husbands and wives share more responsibilities. Not always. There are still, and when I say share, women still may work and do a lot in the house, and studies show they still do more generally, even when they're working. But what I'm seeing trends, men are more involved. And what I'm seeing in trends of time sharing, as you know, is men are more likely to seek a 50-50, a 60-40, more time than historically what was when I was a child, every other weekend and a dinner night, maybe, and so the law of the time sharing standards have evolved. Every family is different, but then those are somewhat minimums. So if they're with you more, and that's where the term Disneyland dad came from, because the dads really weren't there all the time. They have them in the weekend. Maybe they're not in their house, so they go do stuff. And, they're spending money. And then the kids have a great time because dad's the best in the whole world, because we go out to dinner and we go to Disney World and we go to, the park, the beach, and the movies, and we get to eat whatever we want, stay up late, and it's awesome. And great, thanks a lot, Mom. Come back Sunday, and now it's all about homework, laundry, chores, you name it. And traditionally, that was very common. You will still see it to some extent, even no matter what the schedule, but that is kind of where I'm going on this one. And so with that, particularly with the fathers who really haven't been around a whole lot and maybe do have some guilt, is they're going to overindulge the children. And they may do it for a long time. It may just be during the pendency of the divorce. I'm going to get into what I think some of the reasons are. And guilt, definitely one. So that's something where our client comes there, she's like, I can't compete. And I feel you, I get you, because I'm really a competitive person, but it's not a competition, but it feels like it a lot of times, because that's his intent, is to compete, to be liked more. And that, again, is not really the objective of parenting, but you will see that pop up in divorce scenarios. And the reason being, reasons can be several. One, I want to show my love through money, because that's the easiest way for me to do it. Buy them what they want. And then if I tell them I'm going to take them shopping, they will come stay with me, because at that age, as you know, it can be difficult to force your teenagers to go away from their environment, their house, their room, their friends, and go hang with dad. So those are just a lot of the things that they're dealing with. And the father who wants to see them, and or maybe wants them to tell you they want to live with them more or spend more time, they're just kind of throwing everything at it to get them to come. That happens a lot. And when you are if you have less income, and if you try to play that game, you can't compete. And despite how much alimony you may be entitled to and child support, I'm telling you, you can't compete with that. Because as we devise your alimony, it is based on a budget. It's based on your needs, your needs, and your husband's ability to pay, not your children's needs, because that's child support. Now, I do not believe child support is going to cover all their needs, but that's the way it is, and I haven't, yet to write any of these laws. So that's a formula in and of itself, child support. That is probably not going to cover their food. But let's talk about our teenager about to go to college. What do they have? They have a car. Maybe paid for, may not. But then they have gas, and then they have maintenance, and then they need tires, and a lot of costs. And they are legitimate costs for your child that don't get considered in child support one at all. And child support will never be adequate to cover that. And then is it part of alimony? It's really not, based on the factors of the law and the cost. So it's very important that, one, you understand we have to resolve these issues, and we have to determine who's going to do it. Sometimes, and if we leave it up to a judge, they may be like, well, he needs to get a job, or they need to do this. But the reality is the expenses are there. And when you were married, you all agreed to them. Are you going to continue to cover these things? And that really is a big thing when we're going through divorce, because we really need to see how much things cost, and is it coming out of your pocket? Did we argue and create this budget for you to receive this money a month? Let's just, pick a round number, $6,000, but you've got like legitimate $2,000 worth of expenses for your child that wasn't considered in that analysis by the court. You're going to really be short every month. So it's a hard conversation to have. And it's one of the reasons that when we were talking about when they're younger, this is one of the things that's harder about divorcing when they're older. They cost so much more, and that the laws truly don't adjust for it, and they don't consider it. And it's a big issue that you can't let slide by. You've got to make it work, because as you're after the divorce, your husband may not try to buy their love and be paying all these things anymore. So that becomes just an issue that you don't have to have a solution right now, but I just want you to be aware of it, because things aren't going to be the same after the divorce financially for anybody. Your spouse is going to have to pay you a lot more. You're going to have to, even if you get a good amount of alimony, now you guys have two households. And so a lot of things will be split and different. And our job as your attorney is to really prepare you to see what that financial landscape is going to be. Because, where is the money you're going to get from the assets and the investment's going to go? How do we make that last? Are you going to need an additional income every month? How is that going to look? So important, because you don't want to be 2 years out after your divorce thinking, I'm broke and in debt. That's the last thing we want for you. So one of the things that can happen, or, I'm going to say it will get magnified during a divorce. Because it probably already was the situation, particularly, if you guys are doing well and your children have a lot of things. I think, frankly, the majority of our children have so much. There's just so much technology that they have access to things, that they already have a sense of entitlement on, I got to get the new phone. I need this, I need that. The issue may be when we were together, sure, get this, get that, get that. There was never really any restraints put on your child. Could be both of you, one or the other. The reality is now that's what you're looking at. And now our hard conversations, not only about the divorce, but about money and financing, and how much things cost and how much money there is. And I'm not saying that anyone is disparaging another. I mean, numbers are numbers, and you can plug them in and say, this is what's here. This is what we've got to do. And I think there's, I'm sure, great ways to have that conversation. One of the books that I've had therapists recommend to many people in going through this situation with the children is, it's called, I'm gonna look it up right here because I think it's called Silver Spoon Kids. And we'll put a link to that book on Amazon. It just talks about the entitlement and really how to help your children understand a budget and deal with a feeling of entitlement. And a lot of times they can say really ugly things to you even if you are working or if you're not working, and look at what you get and what about me? And it's tough, and they're, it can be a little bit jerky about those conversations sometimes, and you're already hurting from the divorce. So I just want to let you know there are resources. We really try to help you have the right people, not only to talk to this about with your children, but how to understand it for yourself. In the ideal world, your husband will get on the same page, but I'm not going to promise you that, and I'm not even going to pretend that that is a common thing. But that's why if you are watching this, and even if your kids are younger, just understand that, if you and your spouse aren't on the same page about, financial literacy and what you're teaching your kids about money, and maybe that happened between the two of you during the divorce. I mean, it's a big cause of issues in marriages. So it's not like this is some obscure thing. This is a reality. And if you're going to now be on your own with your kids, not that your husband's not with you. He's doing it, he's parenting over there, you're parenting here. These are going to be important things that are going to help your children in the event, as they begin to prepare their life and understanding those financial aspects and those hard truths that sometimes we got to tell our kids. And when we're going through a divorce, you got to tell the truth. I don't think that disparaging anybody is a terrible thing to do, and it will come back and you're the bad guy. I promise you that. You got to take the high road, and if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, is my advice in that realm. And that's just, you can take that from me. It is not medical therapeutic advice. It's from someone who's watched these situations a lot and watched what people's actions and things they do in emotional situations come back to haunt them in front of a judge, and they feel terrible, and you will feel terrible. And, I don't want you to feel that way. And I think the therapists will back me up on that, because I've done a lot of that too, and worked with a lot of therapists to help parents, really maneuver through this and be successful. Which comes to the second part of some issues that I have experienced with my clients when you are divorcing and you've got those teenagers about ready to launch or not, but they're in high school and they're difficult on a really great day because they're trying to figure out who they are and they're struggling to do that. And the best way to do that, I think, sometimes is to be really hard on your parents. What I have seen and researched is a wide spectrum of things. So the one thing I'm going to recommend is therapy. It is so important. because your child may or may not open up to you. And it's not easy to find therapists who have availability, who will fit you in, and who can work with the kid's schedule. And then once you get through all that, your child's got to really bond with them, because if they're not going to open up, it's not going to be that helpful. But it's worth it, because they deserve to have somebody to talk to vent to, and to teach them skills on how to cope with the change in their world. And that, if they can learn that, those skills will carry them through their life and make them very successful, because they learned, as painful as it was at that age, how to cope with a difficult situation, how to understand and deal with the emotions and, the different parenting styles, and, having to go back and forth. And now, as they go into young adulthood, if they learn those skills, those are life skills that are so important. And, if there's no adversity, you don't ever have an opportunity to learn how you're going to handle it. And now, if they're in this still age group, you have the opportunity to give them the tools they need and the support to guide them in that right direction. And so therapy is so important. Sometimes family, sometimes just individual, that is, really through the therapist and really what the issues are, but it can really, it can change the dynamic and help them through this, because they're going to go through all the cycles of emotions that you did. And there's going to be anger, there's going to be sadness, there's going to be denial. And, you're going to feel the brunt of all of that, and probably so will their father, and in different ways. And the more you can be truthful with your emotions without disparaging the other, and listen to their emotions, and just listen and receive that information from them, that will be a good first step. Because not only can you provide them with the skills that will help them in the future, you can model for them how they should act in a difficult time. And that will go a long way. You can't control the other person, you can't control your children, but you can model what you know is right. Because at the end of the day, you only have to look at yourself in the mirror. And I know it's hard, there are many things we face raising children, and it's not always an easy answer, and there are difficulties, but at the end of the day, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I did the best that I could with the information that I had at the time. That is why I try to give you a lot of information. Get the information and then make the best decision that you can. Reach out to the resources and the therapists. The part that I've seen that makes it more difficult for the divorce when the children are a bit older is because they're verbal, and they're going to tell you how they feel. Or they're going to act out, and they have more freedom if they're driving, and they have more of a social circle. So it's just being aware that that's going to happen. And if your children have good friends, good support network, they're going to want that probably a lot more than maybe talking with you. And that's again why therapy is just such a great thing to do for your child. And if you don't know, who you should send them to, please give our office a call. We have a list of great therapists who specialize in adolescents, and, depending on their issues and what's going on, we'd be happy to recommend that to you. And if you yourself are considering divorce, in the middle of a divorce, and want to talk to a member of our team, we are here for you, because it's not easy. It is difficult, and that's why we're here with you, because you shouldn't go through this alone. You need a team on your side who can get you over to where it's better and your future looks brighter. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to answering any of your questions and comments. And again, reach out to us if you need to talk with someone at our team.
Thank you so much, Heather. As a mom of teenagers myself, I felt like when she was talking, I was like, yes, girl, yes. You love them, but they can push your buttons. And their toys are very expensive at this age. So what great advice. We're here for you if you need us for this issue or anything else, and we'll have a link in the comment section below on the book that Heather was referring to. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and please give us a call at 904-241-0012. Thanks, and have a great day.